when you first get that great idea and you envision the business, you envision the money coming in, you envision selling the products, and you envision this thing that you're building, this live entity that is your heart and soul in it, because this is your baby. The entrepreneurs, you're going through the jungle with a machete. You don't actually know what's going to be on the other side. You're just pushing through with this imaginable goal in there that you're so excited to achieve, and you do all these crazy things to get it. And being in a jungle, you can't see very far, right? That's why you've got that machete. And all you're focused on is building that business. But if you step back, is that really what you want? And there's a great question. We're going to discuss it today. Do you have a business, or do you have an asset? Because I think a lot of people think I'm going to build a business and that's what they focus on. But what they actually want is an asset. Because what does the business do for you? The business allows you to be free. It allows you to have systems, processes, scalability. That would be an asset. Business ownership, just being a business owner, you're dealing with a lot of the day-to-days, reactive. It's not scalable. And when I was thinking about this process, I wasn't even thinking about Sean, but by the time I was done doing my thought process, research, put it together, I was like, this is exactly what Sean does. And we talk about this all the time, and it just fit perfectly, because I know your head was down building the business, which was beautiful. And we'll get into this today, because maybe you kind of have to have that business building mentality.
Yeah.
But not just that. You want to have the additional piece, which actually makes it the fulfilling part, as opposed to the drudgery of why am I doing this? And so I thought this would be a great conversation to go back, pick Sean's brain on what that was like at the start, and then the transition into building into an asset, because Sean's businesses, they run free flow. And I'm not just saying that, it's like a fact. In fact, if you ever jump on a strategy call with us, we will build strategy plans. It's not a sales call. You will actually get a strategy to help your business become an asset. If you decide to work with us, that's up to you. But Sean has done this personally, and you get to hear the experience of that coming out. And we're going to discuss it today. And so, yeah, Sean, could you take us back to first 3 years mindset, and then maybe that aha moment of, I don't have an asset, but I want one. I want it to be that. Am I even saying the right term? Like because it's quite, it can be easy to miss, very tricky. Like a lot of business owners, right? They might not even know what we're talking about right now, but we know, for sure that that's what they're actually looking for, and you actually know how to help them get it.
Yeah. I think when it's like anything in life, right? When you start something new, when you start something fresh that you're uncertain and that you're unaware, and this is maybe new territory, whether it's a new business or you're a new business owner, man, you're bouncing around like a ping pong, right? You're doing advertising, you're doing marketing, you're doing the emails, you're doing customer service, you're doing sales, and you're just trying to figure it out. You're just trying to basically survive. It's like you jumping into a pool or a marathon and not doing any training. You're going to walk, you're going to crawl, you're going to jog, you're going to do all these different things to keep moving the needle, to keep pressing forward to that finish line. Well, what does that finish line look like? And for me, that first 3 years, it was like, okay, I want to hit the $1 million club, right? In building this insurance brokerage. So that was my finish line. And that's what I strive toward. There was nothing going to come in between me and that finish line. I was just going to put my head down and do the things I needed to do and to get to where I wanted to go. Now, when I picked my head up in 3 years and when I got there, because you will get there, but I soon realized that I was basically just on a hamster wheel. I was at a rat race. I was doing the same thing, Ewan, over and over and over. And then that first 3 years as a business owner, new business owner, was not going to get me to where I wanted to go. There was a lack of clarity. There was a lack of vision. There was a lack of drive. There was a lack of purpose. I hit that 3-year wall and I was like, what am I doing with my life? Sure, I had the money, cash flow. I had built a business, but I had neglected everything around me. My health, I was 25 pounds overweight, right? I had money in my bank account, but I had neglected my friendships, the relationships. And I know a business owner and entrepreneurs, they can relate to this, because success is a lonely road, but it doesn't have to be. And so when we hear that, it's like woo woo, you know?
Yeah.
But when I think about success is a lonely road, there's certain things that you have to do on a daily basis as a business owner and entrepreneur that a lot of people, 99.9% of people around you, they're not going to understand. But what I do understand, if somebody's listening to this, and I'm just talking about my older version of myself, is I felt like I was on a hamster wheel. There was and the reason I was on a hamster wheel, the reason I felt like I was staring at a wall every single morning that I woke up is because of the lack of clarity. Where am I going?
When you say hamster wheel and doing the same thing over and over, could you give a snippet of what the same things were over and over? Like what kind of things were you doing?
Yeah, man, I was waking up.
This is again, Tuesday, again, another Tuesday, again.
You're literally taking me back to the first 3 years.
Yeah, I'm fascinated with it because it's the most important part. Most businesses don't make it past the 3-year mark. Like,
yeah,
the adrenaline gets people through the first year, right? And the hope, and then second year you're getting your feet underneath you. But man, the statistics. I'm not talking about personal opinion here. Statistics. By the time you're into the 3rd to 5th year, you're not in business anymore. I mean, just a fact. Like if you're listening to this, very good chance you won't be unless you do the right things.
Yeah. Well, I'm going into 9 years, closing in on a decade of being a business owner. Right. And I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like we finally hit the sweet spot. I finally hit the bread and butter of all the dark work and the behind the scenes work of getting super clear, jumping off the hamster wheel, because you have to get off that hamster wheel. You have to get off that rat race of everyday life to really level up and get super clear on where it is that you want to take your business, not just your business, but where you want to take your overall asset, right? And so you had asked the question, like the topic is business versus asset. And I didn't understand this. To about half a decade in, right? About 4 or 5 years in, I was like, wait a minute, I'm building a business. That's what society has told me to do. Mentors, people on social media, influences, you got to have a side hustle. You got to have a business. I'm like, okay, cool. That sounds good. I think it's aligned with freedom. And I think, I've been terminated from jobs. And if you've heard other episodes, my story on being terminated. So I'm going to go out and build a business. Well, I didn't know the difference between a business and an asset. And fast forward all these years looking at things at 30,000 feet, and from outside the hamster wheel, I'm the human being over here looking at the hamster on the hamster wheel going, oh, that's when you get clear on the direction that you want to go. Well, then who do I need to become to get to where I want to go? By asking myself the questions. Yeah. And so that was one of the number one questions is, what is the difference between a business and an asset? And so we had talked about before the episode is, well, a business is, you're basically like I was the first 3 years, rolling up your sleeves. You're in the trenches. You're doing the management. You're doing the advertising, the marketing, the sales, the calls. You're doing basically everything to build that business as a business owner. Now, here's the thing. Somebody may be listening to this. They may be a doctor. They may be a therapist. They may be a real estate agent. And I think you looked up a statistic earlier. I don't know if you want to share that, where
let me see.
There's a high percentage of business owners that are sole operators, right? They're solo entrepreneurs. We call them solo entrepreneurs and solo operators, where they're just one person. And so from my experience, I didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to do everything and show up every day because of the get hit by your bus philosophy. So basically, if that person is a solo operator or solo entrepreneur and they have one employee, maybe even 2 employees, and they get hit by a bus tomorrow, what happens?
This is Forbes. The second point on the article I was reading was 16 surprising statistics about small businesses. And the second point, so the SBA defines a small business as an enterprise having fewer than 500 employees. So if you have less than 500 employees, you're considered a small business. Right. The second point here, there are almost 28 million small businesses in the US, and over 22 million are self-employed with no additional payroll or employees. These are called non-employers. So that's over 22 million of the 28 million small businesses in America are on their own. And I don't think it's by choice.
Yes. And it's by choice because I think it's by choice. And here's my point.
Well, it is by choice, but if they had the choice, it's not by choice that they're working on their own. I think if they could have a system and process and employees doing it all for them, and they could step back, I think they'd say, yes, I want that, what you just said.
Exactly.
But they're not doing it. They're like doing what you just said, the grind.
Yep. Because that's all they know. That's all I knew. That's all I knew. Being a business owner and entrepreneur for almost 10 years now, like the first 3 or 4 years, I didn't know the difference between an asset and a liability. And so you call it a business, I call it a liability.
Did I? Man, that's deep. That's crazy good because it is. It's like people think your house is an asset. Your house is not an asset because an asset puts money in your pocket. what a house
Yep.
is to. They literally will take money out of your pocket for the rest of your life, no matter what. Yes, you build equity, but that equity that grows statistically is 4%, which is not keeping up with inflation over time. And so, yes, you're going to pump more money into your home. And if you needed that access to that money, you'd have to sell it. And then you're back into buying another house. And then you're back in the same boat. So
Yep.
A business is very, very similar as far as a liability, time,
Yes.
energy, effort. Like that's liability.
Exactly. And I think to a certain degree, from my experience, any business that you build, you're going to have a ratio. So there's 3 different ratios. And Michael E. Gerber talks about this in the E-Myth that I have applied in my journey of entrepreneurship is 1. So you have a percentage of being a technician, and then you have a percentage of being the manager, and then you have a percentage of being the entrepreneur. Well, when you start a business, right? Call it a business, call it a liability, or call it a technician. You are, if you're a solo operator or you're the one doing the work in the business, you are either a technician, solo operator doing all the work, or you're in the business. You're working in the business.
Yep.
Right. And so if you have a lack of clarity, it's not if, but when, whether it's 12 months, maybe it's even 6 months, your statistics said it there. The first, I think it's 30 to 50%. I just read here recently in one of the books that I'm reading, Traction, really good book for business owners, is less than 50 or over right at 50% of business owners don't even make it the first year. And then year 3 to 5, I believe it's 80% of those business owners will throw in the towel in that 5th year. And then out of the 5th year to the 5th to the basically the 10th year, 80% of those business owners won't make it.
Yeah. So,
right? So we're not even through the light yet. Well, I'm 9 years in business, right? And I've had to go through this entire journey in this entrepreneur journey. So all I'm doing is just talking to my younger self, because all I'm trying to do is somebody listening to this that's a solo operator, that it's not if, but when they get hit by a bus or they get sick and tired of being sick and tired on the hamster wheel, staring at the wall. When you feel that fatigue because you are getting older, you're not getting younger, you're getting older, right? You're not in your teens or 20s anymore. Life happens that you're going to wake up one day and go, dude, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
And you know what's funny is that first year, 2 years, 3 years, 4, maybe even 5, you're like, wow, I love what I do.
Yes.
But love is an emotion, right? Like, of course, we love our family. That never goes away. But there's ups and downs, rocky roads. But with a business, you're not married to a business. Like in the romantic sense, you are married to your business. But that love for what you do, that can go away.
100%. And it will go away.
When it does, exhaustion. Like, I know a few business owners, and they're like, "Well, I don't want systems, processes. Yeah, I don't want to scale. I don't want to scale because I'm enjoying. I love what I do. Hey, that's your first year or 2. But what about 3 or 4 years? If you had implemented some of these systems, processes, even if you love what you do, at least you'd have that going for you. And if you had the option to exit the building when you wanted to, you would have it. But if you don't do those things today, then you're going to be at that exhaustion mode. And you won't be able to build those systems processes fast enough to keep up with how much you the disdain for what you've built, like the exhaustion and the hamster wheel. Hamster wheel.
It's just not sustainable. I say that word all the time. Life happens. You will get punched in the mouth because you feel good right now. And this was me, and I was, dude, up till about 3 years ago, ego was driving the boat, right? And when you got a strong personality like myself, and it like, there's no way, Ewan, if I don't have the energy that I have today, that I would be where I am at today. If I didn't get punched in the mouth, sat on my rear end and hire a coach, 2+ years ago now, I don't end up where I'm at today. And so it's not if, but when this happens. And so for me, it's like what I'm trying to do is help talk to my younger self, somebody that's willing to lean in. And the people that have leaned in, I'm trying to help that younger Sean avoid failure, avoid the failure of it being too late, avoiding failure of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because typically at that time, the statistics don't lie. Don't be a statistic. I didn't want to be a statistic. I didn't want to have to throw in the towel. And so when you get to that place, it's typically, if you're not an ambitious driver, energetic, go-getter type of personality, I don't think you're going to come out of it. And the only reason the only reason I was able to come out of it is because I had that mentality of grit, determination. A lot of people don't have that trait. A lot of people don't have that personality. I don't think I'm here today if I don't have those characteristics.
It's funny
of knowing.
And I feel like we will probably build more businesses I'm 42. You're in your 30s still. There's a good chance we're going to live into 110, 120 years old. We're probably going to build more. And when I think about that, I think how I would have done it before I associated your business acumen, I would not have known what to do. Like I would have just ground it out, which I had started two and failed two businesses before for different reasons. Because some of them were like, why am I even doing this? I kept hitting that wall, kind of like you would really say that clarity. I started the business for the money. I'm like, I don't enjoy this. I bought myself another job. I don't want this. I'm out. That was my options, my choices. I was like, oh, I'm out. I really thought that was the only thing I could do. And so now, if let's say it's 5 years, or even let's say it was today, I started another business. I'm like, the first thing I'm going to do, just being around you, it would be completely different. Like the systems, the processes I'd be doing from day one. And it would be beautiful. I'd get to still do what I love, but it would be even more love, and it would be even more scalable, and it would be so enjoyable. Still roll the sleeves up, still have to do the hard work, but you're working towards the systems and processes. You're not working towards growth for growth's sake. And
Why?
It's a totally different game.
Because you're clear. Yeah. Because there's clarity.
Because you put in the work. Business and one is building an asset.
Right.
And the asset gives me everything that I want, what I actually want. I thought a business would bring me. But if I'm thinking business, I'm going to get a business. If I think asset, I'm going to get an asset.
That's right. Bingo. And man, it's so beautiful that you said that, because the thinking, what's funny is you're on this master class of like entrepreneurship and growing a business and asset and business. And, because iron sharpens iron, right? And we're in this thing together. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing, call it what you want, mentoring, coaching, partnership. And when you don't have that, and most business owners, myself included, when I first started, I didn't really have that. I had to search that. I had to get curious. And not all the answers, even if the answers did come at me through podcast, YouTube, or even in one-on-one person, our brains can only filter in and understand certain things unless we put it into action.
Yeah.
You can sit here and consume audio, video, books all day long, but until you actually put into action, until you actually get some skin in the game and do work, right? Get comfortable getting uncomfortable.
The adrenaline when the adrenaline starts kicking in, you're like, oh snap. Like, I've got to do something. It's not like, well, maybe I'll get to it. It's like, no, it's do or die time. Like there's a big difference once you're in the game.
Yeah. And I also think too, it's like, I love creating an asset. And I also love building a business. Mm-hmm. So even if you are a solo operator or a self-employed, you can still build.
Yeah.
Like people think so you have an asset now. It's a well-oiled machine, and it is. It's beautiful. But now what got my thinking to where it was not going to get me to where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
That's the difference between the business and building an asset. Now building an asset, which is a well-oiled machine, now I can spend the time, energy, and effort getting outside of the hamster wheel. Because what happens in a hamster wheel? That hamster's going to get tired. He's going to burn his wheel. He's going to burn his rubber, and he's going to continue on treading that water. It's only a matter of time before he's a sinking ship. So I was that guy. And that's what it looks like that first 3 years, building a liability of business. I'm the liability in the business. If you're a solo operator, an entrepreneur, or a business owner, and you're doing all the work and you don't have that clarity in where you're going, mark my word, it's not if, but when. Listen to me. If you don't reach out, if you don't ask for help, whether it's with Level Up and Live, whether it's with our small group coaching,
to help someone to come help you, like you need this, whether it's with us or with someone else. And I want to say this before we wrap up time. I always have this question like, oh man, how fast do you think you could have done it? Because now you're 9 years going into 10. And I always think, man, if you were to go back and tell yourself everything, how fast could you have gotten to where you are much quicker? And then I'm like, well, I don't need to ask you because I'm not going to mention his name, but within a year, you took a 6-figure coachee to multi-million dollar business in less than 12 months. And actually there's going to be some stuff rolling out and you'll probably get to hear it at some point. You won't know who it is because there's a lot of stuff rolling out, but he was able to do that purely because of your conversations, just words that like the systems, the ideas, the thoughts, the mentality that you're able to install with him. And he will say to the grave, like none of that would have happened if he hadn't been working with you, talking about learning these things. So he did it in 12 months or less than, of course, he's been working on the business for a while, but it had been at that 6-figure range. And then when he pretty much tied himself to the hip to you, he's created this monster of a business. And he's still working very hard at his own choice, but he's got systems, processes, but he's very close to where he could just step out and do the 30 minutes a week thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's what I envision for him. Like he might say it different and you might say it different, but I'm like, to me, it sounds like a few more tweaks. He's got that system. He's got that process. He's got that asset that he's been looking to build this whole time.
Man, it's so, I'll share the story. We can wrap things up, but I recently got an opportunity. I think I told you this behind the scenes with an individual that reminded me a lot of myself. That he's, I won't say his name and I'll leave him out. He owns a HVAC company here in Conroe, and he's been around. He went to the same school I did, and a little bit, he's obviously about a decade younger than me. So as soon as I had met this guy and we jumped on a discovery call, again, discovery call, man, it's a real good, solid 10 to 15 minutes. I always try to just pour into the individuals that book the discovery calls, some kind of just strategy for their business so they can move, whether they do business with us or not, they can apply moving forward. And with this individual, I remember we had picked up the phone, we had talked, and we ended up taking that 15 minutes to an hour. I just really enjoyed, to a certain degree talking to him, because I was like, man, this guy is going to be a challenge. This guy, I'm just talking to the younger Sean, very prideful, very guard up, had worked his butt off to build what he's got. But the entire time I'm talking to this guy, it's exactly what we're talking about. He was building a business. He'd been doing it for X amount of time. I think it was right under, he was 1 to 3 years in, and he was the liability. He was the bottleneck in the business. And his main concern that he kept bringing up over and over and over again, I need somebody that's going to come in here and tell me what I need to charge customers. That was it. And I said, man, that might be true, but that's micro right now. What we're trying to do here is the whole reason you're reaching out to me, and I can hear it in your voice is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're the bottleneck in your business. Meaning, right, when you become the bottleneck, you're the liability in the business. You're spinning your wheels. You're on the hamster wheel, and we can focus. We can talk about doing what to charge customers. That comes with it. That's the micro. What's the macro? What does your business stand for? What does it look like? Where are you going to be in 12 months from now? How many employees do you want? Where is your office going to be? What do you want it to feel like?
The issue he had was real, but it's not his problem. No. He thinks his issue is his problem, but there's always going to be issues. You're always going to ask the questions of how much do I charge the customers? That's a very important question. That's something to discuss and strategy. But people think that's it. Oh, if I get that, my problem's solved. It's not actually the problem. There's much deeper, and that will get resolved by fixing the problem.
Yep.
Like it just never seems to feel like it's like you said, it's macro. You fix the macro picture, the micro, everything slots into place at that point.
100%. Yeah, because if you're just concentrated on what I charge the customers, then it's not if, but when you're going to run into the same problem with another thing, another micro, another system and process. So, and the reason I'm able to say that is because I did that. And that wasn't the answer. The answer is, hey, what's the macro? Let's get super clear. Let's see what it looks like in 12 months. And here's the thing. You may be a new business owner, and I think this is with any business. It may take some time. Yeah. It may take 6 months. It may take 12 months. I don't know. I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar, but I know what I know. I know what I've been through. And taking a step back, going, okay, I've been that guy and I've been this guy. I would rather spend the time on my thinking, my mindset, the macro, getting clear to help myself avoid the unfulfillment, the sick and tired of being sick and tired, the hamster wheel, and all these things that come with it. Because if you're focusing on what to charge customers, what's the next thing? What's the best software to use? Where should our office be? And then it's only a matter of time before 6 months, you're having that same conversation again. What should I charge customers based on inflation? Yeah. So you're literally it's a hamster wheel. You're asking the same horrible questions over and over and over when you should be asking yourself the bigger macro questions, right? Because that's just a minute question. What should we charge customers? We can solve that in a matter of times or a matter of minutes.
They're not talking about the life they want to live.
Right.
And so if you're just focused on those things, you're going to get all those things. They're going to get them all. But at what point does that correlate to the life they want to live? They think if I do these things, well, then I'll be able to live that life. Well, what does that look like? I don't know. I'm not focused on that yet. I'll do that when I get there. But it's a hamster wheel. You'll always be working on those things as opposed to, well, move those out of the way. What do you want what do you want the asset to do for you? What do you want the asset to do for you? And then you're like, well, I want it to do this and I want it to look like that.
Yes.
In my life. I see. Now let's go back and look how doing these things will relate to you getting that.
Yep.
And how, what version of that is ever going to be bad? Like, there's none, but it's totally different.
That guy will dominate. That guy will dominate. He will be in the game longer. He will run the marathon. He will run the ultra. He will outlast his competitors. Yeah. He just will. Look at any entrepreneur. Look at Jeff Bezos. Look at Steve Jobs. Look at the greats. What is the difference between those guys and the statistics that you shared that go out of business? They have clarity. They see a crystal clear.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the difference maker. Not what am I going to charge my customers? Sure, that's important. But like you said, you come back to that. Yeah. That's the asset when you're working on the business. And then you're able to pour into it because you've worked on yourself, leveling yourself up. And that's all I spend my time doing now is working so harder on myself. I told you this behind the scenes the other day. There's a lot of things that I'm not good at, but there is 1 or 2 things that I am really good at. I will outwork anybody in development, right? In developing my mind, and developing my well-being, and developing the things that are aligned with my values and my beliefs.
Leveling up. And what I spend my time doing is the people that I've surrounded myself with is pouring into them that continue to lean in. And so I think if anybody resonates with what we're talking about today, and reach out for that strategy call and get that strategy, and you will, it's free. It will pop your mind by the time you're done with it. You'll be like, oh man, I was off course. Yep. Or who knows what you're going to get with that strategy call, but you're going to get some form of clarity, and it will bring you, guess what, peace and drive and excitement and fulfillment. That's what the strategy call will do. So reach out, set that up, and no pressure. It's not like we're not hard closers. You either want to do this or don't want to do it. We're not chasing you, because that's not what we envisioned. We don't want to chase people. We want people to work with us. So
yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Now, 10 years ago, I'd have been like, yes, hey, why aren't you reaching out? Now I'm like, dude, there's only so much time that I want to spend my time, energy, and effort. I only want to spend it with the people that lean in. And the people that lean in, I'll go to war with you.
Yeah.
Right. And those are the ones, if you reach out, like you said, the link's going to be in the show notes. So reach out. We look forward to hearing from you. Outside of that, if you like today's show, make sure, if you don't mind, leave us a review, because that's how we grow. We grow organically. And as of this time, we don't do any kind of paid advertising and marketing. So we'd sure appreciate a review, what you liked about the show, and then also like and subscribe, share it with a friend, fellow business owner and entrepreneur. We greatly appreciate you. Level up and live.
Level up and live.